Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Finance, Procurement and Transformation Committee. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through our Council's website. Can I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you're not addressing the meeting. For those of you attending virtually who wish to contribute, you should write speak in the Teams chat function and you'll be invited to speak in order about new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that we can deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I ask that you either leave the Teams meeting or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join, as this will allow us to record member presence. We have several important reports to consider today and I anticipate we'll deal with them in our usual efficient manner. Nick, can I ask you to provide this rundown and any apologies, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, present in the hall today, we have Councillors Wilson in the chair, Councillors McKee, Nicholson, Sloan and Thompson, and currently on Teams we have Councillors Hagman, John Campbell, Ian Crothers, Davidson, Hislop, Inglis, Johnston, Lever, McGregor, Maitland, Murray. Current not present at the start of the meeting are Councillors Brodie, Fairburn and Giusti.
Okay, thank you, Nick, and I approve of the members' remote participation. Item number 2 is declaration of interest. Do any members have a declaration of interest they wish to make? Gail?
Thank you, Chair. Declaring interest in item 4 in my role at COSLA. I'm leading on national pay negotiations and won't take part in any of the discussion or decision in relation to pay. I will stay for the report because there are other things contained within it that are not in relation to pay, but it's just to declare that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian?
Thank you, Chair. I've been involved with the Annan Centre influencing, I would say, and actually I think it was the first point of contact between Annan Centre and the Council about 8 or 9 years ago in regards to the last item. So I declare an interest that I have been involved, but certainly would be staying in for the item. It's not such that I should leave, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Nick, did you manage to catch all of that? Grand. Ian, just to say, it was a little bit quiet, just for any future contributions you might want to fix that. Item number 3 is minute of previous meeting of the 31st of August 2021. Can we approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 31st of August? Thank you. Item number 4 is the Council Revenue Budget Monitoring Report for 2021-22 for the period ending the 30th of September 2021. This report provides members with an overview of the Council's overall financial monitoring position in this current financial year and includes an update on the main financial implications associated with the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing response. Paul Garrett and Gillian Ross are here to assist members with any questions, and I will open it up for member debate. Do any members wish to come in? John Campbell.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just a couple of points. I'm quite pleased that Paul gave us a rundown on the Radio Hill sites yesterday at the seminar, so thanks for that. I'm sure once we get that all sorted, the mobile companies are no short of a bob or two, so they should really be paying there. But that's just an observation, Chair. My question was really around the energy costs. I was just wondering, did we make any savings over the last couple of years, through the pandemic? I wonder if you could help us out with that, please. Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yes, we have made savings in relation to reduced energy costs, certainly last year, through the kind of closure of facilities, and we've reflected that in the reports that have come to this committee, whereby we've indicated the increase in costs to council services as a result of COVID. We've offset that by the savings that have been incurred in relation to things like energy and transport, and those have been reflected, as I say, in the reports that have come back to this committee. On energy in the current year, It's a bit more complex in terms of we're just coming into the winter period, and with facilities being pretty much all open now, particularly our schools, which were closed for a period during the winter last year, but with the schools all being open now, with increased ventilation, there is an expectation that our energy consumption levels will increase fairly materially. We're working with property on that at the minute to try and get an estimate, but obviously we're still at a very early stage of the winter period. So although there's been some reductions in energy costs up to now, it may be that there'll be an increase in energy costs, and we've reflected that potential increase. We've put an estimate on that in this report, and we'll come back to members in the next meeting with a bit further detail once we're further into the winter and have a better idea on the level of consumption currently being incurred.
Thank you. Ivor?
Thank you, Chair. It was with regard to the pay award negotiations. Is the deal that's there the current one that we're working on, or has there been any enhanced offers towards the staff? And with regard to sort of ongoing years with the energy costs, is there any indicative idea of where we will be come after March 22 on prices? Will that be up higher, or are we hoping that the national or the worldwide prices will drop so that we'll be all right there?
Paul?
Yep. In terms of the pay deal, there has been some movement since the report was finalised. The week before last, there was some negotiations, recognising that there was potential industrial action in some areas. There were kind of negotiations to try and avert that. So there has been a revised offer subsequent to finalisation of the paper. It's the same terms that are actually set out at paragraph 3.4 in your report in terms of the extent of the uplift, but the proposal or the revised offer is that offer would be backdated for 3 months. So instead of being in place from the 1st of April 2021, it would actually apply from the 1st of January 2021. So the unions are taking that back to their memberships at the moment. In terms of how that might impact on our financial position, I think probably the key thing is that it's not a recurring increase. It is based on the same offer that was previously there. So it's not a change to the amount that we'll be paying on an ongoing basis. It's effectively a one-off increase in costs, taking into account the additional monies that the Scottish Government are providing to support that revised offer. We kind of calculate at the minute that the increased cost of that one-off payment to this council will probably be in the region of about £400,000. So I think in the context of overall pay negotiations, that's certainly a manageable amount, and we have got allowance within the budget that would help us cover that. So we'll wait and see, obviously, whether that revised offer results in bringing an end to the current pay negotiations. In terms of the energy costs beyond the current year, we are still looking at that at the minute. I think there is an expectation that once the current Scotland XL deal runs out, there's bound to be some increase in energy prices. We tend to get a report from Scotland XL in December, which gives projections forward on future energy cost levels. We use that to help inform the budget model, which Gillian's developing at the moment, and we'll be bringing to members hopefully before Christmas, alongside details of the Scottish Government's budget announcement. So hopefully we'll have better information from Scotland XL by then. So we are expecting some increase, but the extent of that at the minute is probably, I wouldn't like to put a figure on it, but it's something that we're very much aware of. And through December, and perhaps coming back to members with more information, we'd look to ensure that we've better data to base that on.
Okay, Ronnie?
Yeah, it's just partly what Paul was saying there regarding, I know we may be in not a secure position, we may be able to handle this in the coming budget, but it's beyond that, that I'm kind of concerned about, because it's fine kicking the problem further down the road, but, if we don't get the money into the council on a recurrent basis, then we're going to have the same problems for the next 10 years. And unless the Scottish Government, comes back with something substantial and something recurring, this is fine just now. It's going to see us through a short period, but in the long term, it's going to be no good for further councils.
Paul?
Yep. Can I just check? I think Ronnie can probably referring to the pay offer there and the kind of additional non-recurring money that was provided to help support that revised offer. Am I right there?
This is overall as well.
Overall, absolutely. Yes. No, we have, as you've kind of indicated, received additional monies that are helping us on a non-recurring basis at the minute, and obviously the big risk to councils' financial positions is probably beyond the current financial year. Obviously, after the recent UK budget announcement, there has been an increase in the level of block grant that will be made available to the Scottish Government to support their budget considerations. So there is some hope that will result in an improved financial settlement for local government. But obviously, until the Scottish Government come out with their budget details in December, it's hard to project how they will utilise those additional monies at this stage. But obviously, some of the additional pressures that are coming through to councils, like increased pay, the impact of inflation, energy costs, are hopefully the kind of things that will be taken into account when that budget deal is announced in December.
Okay, thank you everybody. I think obviously there's been a couple of things there, pay award, energy costs and the local government finance settlement. So we do have another FPT committee in December, and we've got one in January now and brought that forward from February. So I'll sort of just a commitment there from everybody to make sure that energy costs and pay award are updated in those papers. Particularly as the impact of winter becomes clear, and essentially as in previous years, the moment that information is received on the local government pay settlement, the local government finance settlement, that will be distributed to members as quickly as possible thereafter. But I've got nobody else wanting to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. Are we happy to... Oh, sorry, Katie.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm in a different office today. Yeah, I think we're in a good position. I think it's important to stress that members will be aware, and we can see in the table in 3.22 that we do have remaining funding available that's uncommitted at this point. I'm sure all members have projects and places in their communities that would appreciate extra funding. So it's just to confirm when we get the update coming back that we will get an updated position on that. I'm sure we will, but just to put that on record that we will get that updated position. And also, I just wanted to double check in terms of the business rates incentive scheme. There's reference to the additional funding of £3 million there. Have we received that funding as yet? Because I appreciate it's from 2017-18 and 18-19, and there has been an updated position, but obviously that's going to be very welcome funding. So it's just to confirm if we've got that funding in place, because I'm just not quite sure by the reading of this.
Paul?
We've had that confirmed. We will definitely be receiving that amount. I think I'm right in saying, Gillian will keep me right, hopefully. I don't think it's been received yet, but we have had it confirmed that it is definitely coming. Is that correct, Gillian?
It has been now reflected within the payment profile that we get from the Scottish Government. So it has been allocated across the weekly amounts that we will now receive on that basis. So it's spread across the remainder of the financial year, but it is reflected within that payment circular now.
Okay, thank you. Stephen?
That's really helpful. Thank you. And I think it's very welcome.
Stephen?
Thanks, Chair. It's just on a couple of things, but one is the Singleton Park Care Home additional costs. Obviously, it's been identified in the report, but it'd be helpful to get a sense of if some of that's capital works and or if it's revenue costs for provision of staff, for example. And also, we're saying it's necessarily been incurred, but do we have any indication as to what that looks like at the moment, given that we're still establishing the full cost of that? And similarly, on the radio masts, I mean, that's a cool £750,000 effectively outstanding to the council. I don't know if that's a legacy DG First issue, but will we get a wee bit more detail on that brought back? I know it was raised earlier on in the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring in Lillian first and then Paul.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Yeah, I mean, Singleton Park, obviously we're still incurring costs as we move forward, and we can't project at this moment in time what will be the ultimate outcome. A significant amount is around some use of additional staff that we've had to put in place to make sure that we deliver a safe service whilst that sits under our responsibility. And we have a finance group that's working towards the IMT that's overseeing the service delivery in Singleton Park. So at this moment in time, that's the projected cost, and as I say, at this junction, we can't say exactly what will be the final outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul?
Yep, in relation to the Radio Hill sites, as Councillor Thompson says, it is a substantial sum, and we're liaising closely with colleagues in both legal and communities at the minute to try and ensure this is moved forward and brought to a conclusion. The intention would be to come back to members with more detail as requested there, initially through the Communities Committee to provide that further information, and obviously would bring a summary of that back to this committee as part of these reports. So absolutely, no, this is a kind of key priority issue for ourselves, communities and legal, and we'll be looking to ensure that members get full details on that as we take it forward.
Okay, thank you. I have no other members wishing to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. Are we happy to note 1, 2, 3 and 4 in block? Take that as a yes. Item number 5 is the Capital Investment Strategy Monitoring Report for Q2. This report provides us with an update on the Council's capital investment strategy and an overview of the second quarter financial and physical progress on the agreed capital programme. Paul Garrett's here to assist with members' questions. Is there any members who wish to come in? No. I will then... Oh, Katie?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, apologies. I'm really slow on the iPad. I normally work off my phone. So, yeah, I just wanted to just sort of welcome, and I'm pleased to see that we've got in the report today well, not the extras, but agree to use the £30,000 for the survey work to progress the Newton Stewart Flood Protection Scheme. I think it's absolutely essential that we push on as fast as we possibly can with the Newton Stewart Flood Scheme, as all our flood schemes. Obviously, we're all aware of what happened in the last fortnight, and I think it's only through sheer luck almost that Newton Stewart did manage to escape this time down. So I just want to welcome the recommendation 2.4. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've got no other members who wish to come in, so we're happy to move to the recommendations, and we're noting 1, 2, 3 in block and agreeing number recommendation 4. We're happy to do so? Excellent. Item number 6 is Treasury Management Mid-Year Review for 2021-22. This report is a requirement of the CITFA Code of Practice on Treasury Management, which the Council signed up to in 2010 and has complied with since. The report sets out the Treasury Management activities for the period 1st of April to 31st of September this year. Paul Garrett is here to assist with any member questions. Is there any members who wish to ask a question? No. Ivor?
It's just the sort of usual one, Chair. There's been talk of interest rate rises. In 3.7 it says that we're not expecting to actually take out any long-term borrowing in the immediate term. Are we looking at maybe not for a year or for immediate term, or is it the next 2 years that we would look at that, or will it depend possibly on any interest rate rises that happen with the Bank of England?
Paul?
Yep. Well, at present, we have got significant cash balances. We've received monies for a range of support activities that we've not incurred yet. So we'll be looking to run those down initially before we move back to even temporary borrowing. But our capital investment strategy, which was in the previous report on this agenda, reflects increased capital investment over the upcoming 4 financial years from 22-23. I suspect it'll be well into 22-23, probably towards the end of that year before we're needing to incur any further borrowing. But one of the things that we need to keep a close eye on is projections for increase in interest rates and PWLB rates. The current expectations are that any increase in rates will be measured and kind of very gradual. So certainly there's kind of no need to move back to longer term borrowing in the short term. But I think as we move into the new financial year, we need to have kind of greater awareness, or take into account to a greater extent the extent to which interest rates may rise going forward, and make sure that we time our borrowing appropriately. But at present, I think there'll be still a good 9 months to a year before we need to look towards any longer term borrowing again.
Okay, John.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I welcome the report, and just to kind of follow on from what Councillor Hislop was saying about the interest rate, and particularly in the attachment, the mid-year review on page 70, where it highlights a number of risks or potential risks that have kind of propped up over the last year or so in the economic and interest rate update. Now, I appreciate that this was provided by Link Asset Services, and it's not really a council report, but I'm actually quite surprised that it doesn't cover the likes of Brexit or what's actually happening at the moment. I mean, everybody seems to think that Brexit is done, and it kind of goes back to a reference that Basil Fawlty, don't mention the war. In this case, it's don't mention Brexit. And there's absolutely nothing in this report. Now, we all know that the Northern Ireland Protocol is always in the front pages in a number of papers. And if Westminster decide to implement Article 16, it may be contained to just that part of the Brexit negotiations, but it could or may lead to a trade war with Europe. So that's a huge risk, in my opinion. And I'm surprised that this report, although it mentions labour market, energy prices, supply shortages, rising inflation, etc., there's absolutely nothing on there. And I'm just wondering if Paul and his team have got things in the wings that if this does escalate to such a degree that we could protect the council. Thanks, Chair.
Paul?
Yeah, no, as Councillor Campbell says, that this commentary does come from Link, and I think what they're trying to do is highlight the issues that may have an impact on the money markets, on interest rates going forward. But Councillor Campbell says Brexit is absolutely one of those still having some impact and may well have an impact going forward. We're very conscious that not just Brexit, but there's a huge number of things that can impact on markets, can impact on the economy, the pandemic itself, climate-related issues. Brexit, it's part of a mix that we're very conscious of. And one of the risks that we have on our register further on in this agenda on the Finance Procurement Risk Register relates to issues around about Brexit. So it's something that we have been continually monitoring. But to be fair, it's had a fairly marginal impact to date in the midst of everything else, because obviously during this period we've had COVID, we've had various other things. So we're just taking into account as part of that overall management of the things that impact on the council.
Appreciate that, Paul. It's very helpful. Thank you.
Stephen?
Thanks, Chair. It's just on page 82 at the end of that section. It talks about how we previously used PWLB, or Public Works Loans Board, as main source of funding. So when will something come back to us to look at the options in terms of longer term borrowing and the sources of that? Because it does, while we might not have any sort of needs in the immediate term, it may be that we need to be more sort of cited on, well, what would our options be should we wish to change that, which we may want to do in the next couple of years. So it's really just to get a sense of when the outcome of that consultation and the options will come back, and what members will expect to see in due course.
Paul?
Yep, no, thanks. No, it's a helpful question, because that narrative is one that we'll be looking to update for the next report, because the consultation has now been completed. The PWLB rates are now being reduced back down to the previous level, which makes PWLB again the most cheap option, the best value option in terms of local authority borrowing. But as part of our Treasury Management Strategy, which we'll be bringing back to members at full council in March, we'll be setting out our plans going forward, and the various sources of borrowing will be taken into account as part of that. But certainly as things currently stand, following the conclusion of that recent process, PWLB does still look to be the most effective source for local authority borrowing for the upcoming period. But that will be further reviewed as part of the development of our Treasury Management Strategy.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I've got no other members who wish to come in, so I'll move to the recommendations. Are we happy to note the details of the Treasury Management activities? Thank you. Item number 7 is funding of the capital investment in waste infrastructure. Members are asked to agree a request from the Communities Committee to allocate up to £1.425 million from the Waste Review Reserve to support investment in the Ecodeco Mechanical Biological Treatment Facility. As members will recall, when the Council agreed to terminate the Waste PFI contract, we also agreed to transfer the contract sinking fund into a Waste Review Reserve, as we anticipated capital works would be required in the near future. The proposal today would be funded from this reserve. James MacLeod and Paul Garrett here to assist members with any questions, and I will bring in Doug Fairbairn.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. James, it's just really, I'm not nitpicking here really, it was just going through that and you've given a good breakdown, but I know I work in the business life, but essential spares, can you just give me a couple of examples or even one example of an essential spare? Thank you, just to kind of clarify that point. Thanks.
Sorry, through yourself, Chair, yeah. So in terms of essential spares, we're looking at things like belts for conveyors. We're looking at things like so as you'll understand with the process, we shred the waste and then we dry the waste. Once we've dried the waste, it goes through for further processing. So some of the elements there would be conveyor belts. We would also be picking up the knives that are associated with the shredding of the RDF into SRF and these kind of spares that are replaced on a reasonably regular basis. Does that kind of answer the question, Councillor Fairbairn?
It does, James. It does, James. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Excellent. Ivor?
Thank you, Chair. It's with regard to the appendix, I think it went to the Communities Committee. In 3.2 there, it says further consideration of the role of the facility will play in the medium to long term. Are we committed to maintaining the Ecodeco site in the medium to long term, or do we have plans that it's going to become surplus to requirements, and is this money essential for the short term rather than the medium to long term?
James?
Yeah, through yourself, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. It's a very good question from the point of view of the facility. Certainly at this time, to ensure that we continue to operate the facility in the short to medium term, that these works are essential to maintain that, and costs for diversion are higher than the operating costs for the plant, and so we would like to continue with that. We are, however, as you'll be aware, with the advent of the curbside collection service for dry recyclates, we've obviously seen a drop off in the amount of waste going through the MBT. So it's obviously, from our point of view, we're looking at all options to see what role the MBT plays in the medium to long term. Things that are being considered very much at present are how long we operate the facility for, in terms of, we operate a 5-day, 24-hour shift pattern. And we potentially would look to reduce that to, say, a 4-day with a 5th day for maintenance, rather than undertaking maintenance the weekend. So there are things being looked at in terms of how the plant operates, given that we've got less waste going through. But with the Scottish Government's aim to recycle up to 70% of waste in Scotland, clearly, processes like energy from waste facilities, or in our case an MBT, we need to be mindful of what capacity is required in the medium to long term. But these things do take a period of time to work out. So we're very sure that this is the correct investment in this plant at this time. And what we would say is that the investment that we're putting in this is very much at the front end of the facility. So as you can see from the photographs in the appendix, it's to do with the shredding of the waste and then the lifting it into the drying area. So if we change the refinements in the future to do less refinement, then we're not investing in that plant at this time. So hopefully that explains it a little bit. It's certainly something we are considering.
Thank you. Elaine?
Thanks, Chair. You've probably been aware that there was I felt a slightly misleading article in the local press at the end of last week, which was suggesting that taxpayers were having to stump up millions more for the recycling, for the Eco-Deco plant and the continuation of the recycling scheme. Just really to confirm, James, first of all, that there was money in the sinking fund which covers much of the capital works that needs to be done. And secondly, to ask, there was a comment made about the landfill costs on the landfill sites. But also, I know it noted in the papers that went to the subcommittee that there was a budget included 300k per annum for life cycle maintenance. I'm just wondering whether that covers the work that needs to be done at the landfill sites. And finally, is there at any point, can we actually estimate, or do we have an estimate of the amount of carbon which has been reduced through introducing the curbside recycling, including the food waste recycling? Because it's not, I feel that the story that goes out there is about the amount of money that it costs. But here, particularly during COP26, we should be thinking about also the amount of carbon that we're saving and the amount of good that this is doing for the planet. Thanks, James.
James.
Thank you through yourself, Chair. Thank you, Leader. With regards to the budget, yes, the money that we're looking to invest is from what was the PFI sinking fund. So it's money that the finance colleagues, Paul, has managed subsequent to the termination of the waste PFI contract, and it reflects investment in the facility in a correct manner. In terms of the paper you referred to Waste Sub, well, it's not in this paper. Waste Sub last week looked at more minor capital works within the waste service. So when the waste PFI contract came over to Dumfries and Galloway Council in November 2018, the budget was made available. Now that budget was a revenue budget, and clearly there are investment items in capital works. So working closely with Paul and colleagues in finance, we've moved an element of that from a revenue budget within the waste services budget into a capital budget that will be monitored through the public realm, what was the infrastructure asset class budget by communities. So the works, as you identified, the landfill remediation works, but also other things like replacement of office accommodation on sites and replacement of compactors and the such, like, the general works that we would do on our household waste recycling centres would be funded through that. So we've identified an annual budget of 300,000 that would be monitored by Communities Committee as we do any other budgets within that, for example, for, roads maintenance and the like. And that would cover over the period of time the rectification works within the landfill sites that we're required to do. In terms of the final point, in terms of carbon reduction and food waste, I should advise that there's obviously financial savings in terms of collections because the materials that we collect, paper and card, metals and plastics, are more cost effective to put on for onward processing than general waste going through the NBT or to landfill or any other route that it may take from the authority. So anything that we can, any recycling and increasing recycling rates is obviously financially advantageous. We've been operating the service now since, in the West since about a year ago, and more recently in the rest of the region since sort of middle of this year, March, April time we started in Shrewsbury. I would like, certainly through Waste Sub, to bring back more details on savings that we've made in terms of financial and carbon reduction savings through the food waste. Food waste service has only just started. But yes, you're completely correct that there are, in addition to simply financial benefits, there are carbon reductions, and I would look to report that back in due course.
Ronnie?
Yeah, I think it's pretty, the leader made a very salient point about reporting stories in the media, and I think which was a particularly lazy piece of journalism, in my view. My question is, does the media actually come and try and find facts from the council before they write a story? Did they come to you, James?
James?
In this case, I'm not aware of them. I'm not aware of them coming to me. I have to say, I generally, if this is wrong, I apologise. I generally don't read much the media, and probably just get passed on this kind of information. So I can, if somebody shares a link with me at some point, one of my colleagues, I'll have a look at it. But I wasn't aware of this particular article. We're always happy to answer press queries, and we obviously deal through the comms unit on that. But I'm not aware of the author of this article being in touch with us for us to explain in more detail about the costs associated with running the waste service and the spends that we are bringing to members for approval.
Okay, thank you. I've got no further members wishing to come in, so I'll move to the recommendations. Are we happy to agree 1 and 2 in block? Yes, thank you. Item number 8 is commissioning a local biodiversity action plan and a forest and woodland strategy. Members are asked to consider a request from Economy and Resources Committee to allocate up to £60,000 to meet the cost of commissioning updates to the local biodiversity action plan and forestry and woodland strategy as agreed in the council budget earlier this year. Anna Johnson is here to assist if members have any questions, and I will now open up to member debate. Is there any members who wish to come in? Nope. Jane?
Thank you, Chairman. I do have a bit of a question. I really do welcome the opportunity that this might afford us. But I want to say to you that people who live in areas affected by blanket forestry are really very anxious about this. I received quite a number of concerned remarks about the place being covered in a monoculture of forestry and leaving a wasteland when it's felled and reducing habitat for wildlife and birds that require more open habitat. But nevertheless, I don't know just exactly how much power the council has to direct what forestry is planned and planted, whether there in fact is a great deal of influence that we can bring to bear. And I would be grateful for some advice as to what we can really expect to be able to do, because I am anxious about what is happening. I know that there have been some changes with respect to the acidification of upland waters, but nevertheless, what is going on at the moment with the drive and ambitious targets for increasing forest and woodland, and we will be a main target for that, just exactly how much we can influence what happens and where. Big question, sorry, but it's really important.
Yeah. Anna?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Maitland. Yes, it is a big question, and I can assure you that the new strategy will be written with Scottish Forestry, and local members will be involved in that. At the moment, the Scottish Government has an overarching document which is called Right Tree from Right Place, and that really underlines the fact that we should be taking cognizance of our native woodlands, our broadleaf woodlands, and also the landscape impacts and biodiversity impacts of creating new forests. In terms of and the forestry strategy should be informing Scottish Forestry about where they allow new applications to happen. So it is our tool. It's the council's tool in helping to shape that.
Okay, thank you. Certainly in my own ward, a number of woodland areas are very much community spaces and community places, so hopefully that's maybe something we can incorporate within the strategy, and I'm sure that Jane's points and concerns there are noted. Katie?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Anna, for the update from yourself there. I think we've only got sort of 3 pages on this, but it's a really important document. As Jane pointed out, there are some concerns, and it is about getting that right place. As the elected member that sits on the Southern Upland Partnership, as well as the UNESCO Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere, I think it's absolutely crucial. I think the UNESCO Biosphere especially has a huge potential for the region, and certainly UNESCO are not shy sometimes at withdrawing UNESCO status to some of really landmark places throughout the world. So I think it's really imperative that we work in conjunction with all our partners, and certainly Dumfries and Galloway Council does support these organisations who are working right in the heart of the Galloway forests as well. So I'm just wondering whether we need 3.19, which references the renewal documents and who they will involve. One of the bullet points, I think bullet point 7 possibly, I'm just quickly counting, bullet point 6, whichever, linking with data mapping work being done by Nature Scout, Borderlands, Natural Capital and SOSI. I'm wondering if it would be appropriate to include Southern Upland Partnership and the UNESCO Biosphere within that, because I'm aware that there's a huge amount of work being done by both these organisations, and as they are partner organisations essentially, I think it's always useful to strengthen those connections. So that would be my request, please.
Okay, I'm very conscious about our delegations. We're considering the financial request. Obviously, this is sort of the actual strategy is delegated to Economy Resources. So, Anna, I'll let you reply to that point, but we can just remember that the delegation for our committee is to consider this request. It'd be up to Economy Resources to obviously fulfil the completion of the strategy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hagman. Yes, indeed, I can assure you that both the Biosphere and SUP will be involved in the steering groups. As you say, they have a lot of expertise and knowledge that can help shape these important documents.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to touch again on work in our own ward, because there's quite a big project with Borders Forest Trust. Obviously, this maybe ties into the land use frameworks that are discussed in this paper. So, for example, our council and Scottish Borders Council and South of Scotland Enterprise are kind of working together to sort of map that out. And obviously, some of the forestry will be commercial, as it is at the moment, but there's a lot of denuded or areas for reforestation, which like I said, the Borders Forest Trust take part in replanting, and I think the main aim of that is to encourage biodiversity, which is clearly one of our aims under our 5th priority. So just whenever we're agreeing 2.3, I mean, is there a message we can encourage Economy and Resources to take on board to sort of make sure that we do get that sort of input into and monitoring of what that money actually gets used for, and a way that elected members can follow up, especially in areas related to the wards that we represent. I see as well on the bullet points that come back to 3.19, while ENR will be presented with the draft documents and not clear where we might have an input, whether it's a form of a seminar or whatever, so I don't know if that needs to be captured in. I know there's a lot of information here that we're just noting, which is not specifically to do with our delegation, but maybe that information could be shared with elected members so that we can at least feed into a seminar or some other event with the partners that are going to be devising the document that comes to ENR. Thank you.
Okay, I will bring in Anna on your last point, and I can see that Rob wants to come in afterwards and most probably will say something about your first point there, Stephen. So Anna?
Yes, we can certainly include a members event to advise all members about what's in the documents before they're finalised. I'll add that to the programme.
Thank you. Rob?
Thanks, Chairman. So yes, effectively, Anna has covered it. I'm delighted to see the interest in this, and clearly I think it would be helpful for us to have a seminar. Naturally it's ENR business, but It wouldn't, of course, be exclusive, and any other member with an interest would be very welcome to participate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got no other members wishing to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. Are we happy to note 1 and 2 and agree 3 on block? Thank you. Item number 9 is funding of marketing and communications costs associated with the workforce pressures. Members are asked to agree a request from the RRR subcommittee to allocate up to £15,000 of COVID-19 funding to support marketing and communication costs associated with the workforce pressures that the Council is currently facing. Annie Johnson is here to answer any questions from members. Ivor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, are these posts permanent posts or temporary posts? I notice it seems to be there's a sort of issue just now, current, I think, so there was a bit in here about current pressures. Now, it seems a bit funny that we're advertising for posts here, yet in our next paper, the transformation one, we're looking to develop a smaller, more flexible workforce. Is this just temporary posts to get us to the stage where we have a smaller, more flexible workforce, or have we actually overstepped what we require, or we've overstepped the sort of reduction in number of staff and therefore we need to build them back up to the number that we require?
Richard.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you, Councillor Hislop. The costs associated with the request to members are purely linked with the additional workforce roadshows that we're currently delivering across the region. It's marketing and promotion for the events, the posts will be met within the core revenue budget. Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Okay, I think Ivor, certainly RRR subcommittee, we had quite a long discussion on this and the range of posts across the council services, including social care and other posts that aren't being that we're struggling to fill, and and that led to this marketing request coming forward so that we can carry out those roadshows and hopefully manage to fill those positions. Do you want to come back, Ivor?
Just say I'm happy with the money going into it. It was just a question of whether this is going to be permanent posts that we're putting in place, or are we still looking at the transformation work to actually maybe move people about to the posts that we require? Or, is this just to get us over a kind of issue just now? Because I realise that there have been a lot of staff left the sort of social care and various other posts.
Yeah, probably a bit of both, but I'll bring Richard in.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, it's probably both, to be honest, but there are permanent posts. The majority are permanent posts that we're recruiting to as part of the agreed establishment within services. I have to say to members that the workforce events, the council workforce events, which followed the successful workforce event targeting health and social care, which happened 2 weeks ago, started this week. I was in Newington yesterday, I'm in the Bridge today, and we've had over 100 people now booked on over the week. So it looks as though the approach we've taken has been really successful. We've made 19 conditional offers aligned with the health and social care event. So it looks like it's going to be a good process, and we'll achieve what we need it to. But yeah, permanent posts predominantly, Councillor Hislop.
Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, just to comment on the posts, and as I think Richard has said, I mean, these are vacancies. These are where people have left. This is not part of our voluntary redundancy programme or anything like that. These are people whose posts are needed and who have left, and they need to be replaced. However, I think there is an issue about a connection with the transformation programme, and that when people are recruited into these posts, we need also to be able to offer them the opportunity to upskill and to take on more flexible work. For example, as we do in things like street scene and so on, that people actually develop a number. They may come in for certain posts, but then they could then develop a number of skills thereafter. And I know that I see Lillian on the call, that we have had discussions through the Health and Social Care Partnership about progression from people coming in, for example, as carers, but maybe developing to go on to do nursing qualifications and so on. So, I don't think they're in any way mutually exclusive. I think we need certain people now, but in the future we need to offer those people opportunities to improve their skills.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I've got no other members wishing to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. And are we happy to agree to allocate up to £15,000? Yep, thank you. Item number 10 is the Transformation Programme update. This report provides us with an update on the overall progress of the transformation work programmes that were developed following the transformation events and associated themes over the last couple of years. The report also provides us with recommendations on the future focus of the next phase of this activity. Heather Carnican is here to assist if members have any questions, and I will open up to member debate. Is there any members who wish to come in? No members who wish to come in? Okay, I will move to the recommendations. Okay, so first of all, I'm sure members have reviewed the progress on the work programmes. I'm sure they've considered the progress made on each transformation programme. Are we happy to agree the priority areas of focus? And item number 4, are we happy to note the summary of achievements and deliverables from the transformation programme? Thank you very much. Item number 11, the review of internal financial procedures and procurement standing orders implementation plan update. This report presents the 4th update on the agreed implementation plan to address the recommendations from our committee's review of internal financial procedures and procurement standing orders. I think we had a good attendance at the seminar yesterday, which provided a really good discussion on the progress that has been made and thinking about future actions. So thank you to everybody who was able to take the time to attend that yesterday. Officers are here to assist if any members have questions, and I will open up to member debate. Any members who wish to come in? Nope. Okay, so I'll move to the recommendations. Are members happy that we've reviewed the update to the implementation plan? Thank you. Item number 12, following on from the last item, is enhanced assurance arrangements in relation to finance and legal risks. This report follows a recommendation and subsequent action from the committee's review into financial procedures and procurement standing orders. Paul Garrett and Vlad Valente are here to assist if members have any questions. Do members have any questions on the report? No. I will move to the recommendations. Are we happy to note the details of the review undertaken? Are we happy that we've reviewed and we agree the actions being processed? Yep. And are we happy to agree that this committee will receive information annually? Agreed. Thank you. Item number 13 is the procurement and commissioning performance update for financial year 2019-20. I think there's been a typo. This report provides an overview of the procurement activities during the first quarter of 2021-22 and highlights forthcoming opportunities and events for local suppliers. Karen Scott and Paul Garrett are here to assist if members have any questions. Is there any questions from members? And apologies about that. Jane?
Thank you, Chairman. Page 171, just to look at the number of local suppliers awarded a contract, which is definitely below our target, I think, unless I'm misreading the situation. And the other issue is obviously about revenue cashable saving. I wonder if I could have some comments about where we are with those targets.
Yeah, thank you. I think from memory we're a percentage point below our target in terms of local spend, but I'll bring in Paul or Karen who wants to take it.
If you can.
Happy to take it. In terms of our performance at quarter 1, if I come on the revenue cashable savings firstly, so the target has been the recurring annual target that we've had in place for a number of years. Our performance, if we look back in previous years at quarter 1, is relatively comparable to other years whereby we've still continued to achieve the overall target. Obviously, the time it takes to go through a full procurement process is around 6 months. So the number of processes that we conclude in Q1 will generally be lower. Therefore, the forecast savings achievement to date is typically lower at Q1. However, based on the work in progress and savings achieved since preparation of this report, we still forecast to achieve the 150k revenue saving for this financial year. Similarly, in terms of the number of local suppliers being awarded, I think our expenditure is on target, and the number of suppliers, again, I think the two things are intrinsically linked in terms of the ability to deliver the cashable savings. It's just until such times as we actually deliver the contract activity itself, which, as I said, the process just takes that bit of time. So again, we fully anticipate achieving that target at this moment in time.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks, Chair. It was actually a question about our businesses in the region who are actually supplying services to other local authorities but not our own. And is there opportunities maybe to, if not sort of overtly identify those companies? Do we have that kind of knowledge where actually there's local businesses who are actually doing well but without availing themselves of the contracts we put out? Do we have any information on that?
Karen?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Thompson, Chair. Yes, so this is something that we've started to pull some data around as part of the community wealth building projects. So we're exploring any potential opportunities through the community wealth building project specifically. What we've found is there are some local businesses who are providing either to other public sector organisations within the region or indeed other authorities. However, we're just exploring exactly what it is that they're providing and if that is indeed good services and supplies that the council itself purchases. The values are such, the values of that expenditure is reasonably minimal, but obviously that could still present opportunity and is something, like I say, being explored through the community wealth building project and will be updated on at future performance updates as well, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it is really important that we keep an eye on these figures, and one of the ones on there is our contractors that are paying the Scottish living wage. And I'm just wondering, I'm very conscious that yesterday was Equal Pay Day, which, for those of you who don't know, is the 8th of November signified the day this year that women essentially stopped getting paid because of the pay gap. Now, I'm not saying by any means that that's an issue within D&G Council, and certainly I'm sure Councillor Maitland and Leader, both been coming in asking questions. We're working as hard as anybody else, and that is recognised. But I'm just wondering, do we look at equal pay in terms of our contractors? Just because I don't see a KPI on there, and I'm wondering if that is something that we ask the question of.
Karen?
Thanks, Councillor Hagman. It's actually not something that's picked up specifically in its own right. We do look at fair working practices in the rounds, and that's where we extract the data at the moment to present on the performance against the living wage. That's something that, in terms of how we gather that information and how we engage with our contractors and suppliers, is something that we've been improving on over recent months to enable us to get a clearer picture in relation to the living wage. But in relation to the equal pay, like I said, that's something that's picked up as the broader fair working practices question. And again, we need to ensure that it's on relevant contracts, but it's something that could be explored further as part of our wider reporting improvements for the future.
Okay, thank you. I have no further members wishing to come in, and I'll move to the recommendations. Are we happy to note the update? Thank you. Item number 14 is review of procurement compliance. As members will recall, this committee's review into financial procedures and procurement standing orders suggested that there was possible non-compliant spend taking place across the council. In agreeing the action plan earlier this year, we agreed a review should be undertaken on council spend. This report provides us with the outcome of the review agreed as part of our implementation plan, assisting us with progress towards creating a comprehensive contracts register by identifying further actions to address full compliance with procurement standing orders in our spend. I welcome the council-wide analysis and detailed review, and I welcome the significant improvement in increasing our compliance spend over the last few years. This report will help us to restore trust in our council and ensure that procurement compliance improves even further. Karen Scott and Paul Garrett are here to assist if members have any questions, and I will open it up to member debate. Ronnie?
Thank you, and I think this is a good report. I think there's, lots to be congratulated in this as well. But, my question is, the standards that we use within this sphere, how do we compare them, benchmark against other local authorities, and how are we doing on that?
Paul or Karen, who wishes to come in? Karen?
And again, Chair. In terms of the analysis exercise, we attempted to undertake a benchmark with other authority areas, and the feedback that we actually received was that others have not adopted quite a stringent approach. So for any aspect of non-compliance, we've captured that and we've looked at our full procurement influenceable spend. What we found was most other authorities were reviewing those the orders and payments that went over the regulated threshold, so over £50,000 for goods and services and over £2 million for works contracts. So they're only reviewing compliance over those regulated thresholds was the general response received across most authorities that returned some benchmark information. So that creates a real challenge insofar as doing a like-for-like comparison, because we've picked up on all expenditure irrespective of value as part of our review for this exercise and as part of the regular performance reporting that's been presented previously. So we're adopting a much more robust approach to that of other authorities, but it does create the challenge that we can't compare on a like-for-like basis.
Okay, thank you for that. I have no other members wishing to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. I think we've considered the findings of the recent review, and can we agree 2 and 3 on block? Okay, thank you. Item number 15 is the Finance and Procurement Revenue Budget Monitoring Report. This report provides the second quarter revenue monitoring report for the Finance and Procurement Service, including the impact of the ongoing financial implications associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Paul Garrett and Gillian Ross are here to assist if members have any questions. Any questions for members? Nope. Okay, I will move to the recommendations, and are we happy to note the position at the end of September 2021? Thank you. Item number 16, the Head of Service 6-month assessment. This report provides members with the Head of Finance and Procurement 6-month assessment of progress on the delivery of the service business plan for the first 6 months of 2021-22. Paul Garrett is here to assist if members have any questions. Is there any questions from members? No. Okay, and are we happy that we've reviewed the 6-month summary of performance? Thank you. Sorry, Jane.
You're being quite sharp, Chairman. It's quite difficult for those of us who are remotely accessing this. Yes, I think it's about on page 203. The Pension Subcommittee continues to develop its approach to sustainable investment. I think there is distinct interest in this, and I think it would be really useful, given that we've just had COP and the legitimate inquiries that have been made of members about what the council is doing with respect to its investments. I would like to see some form of communications done very specifically and explicitly about what we are doing. I'm aware that there are, rules and regulations, fully aware that it's not just an easy issue. But nevertheless, I think we should be much more upfront and open with the public, explaining what we are doing and that we're moving this forward as fast as we possibly can. Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. No, happy to support that. Following the recent actuarial valuation of the fund, we're currently going through an investment strategy review, and what members of the committee have made very clear through that process is that responsible investment considerations require further increased prominence as part of that review, particularly in relation to climate change related issues. And at the last meeting of the Pensions Committee, members received kind of training in relation to responsible investment considerations and how they could be taken into account as part of wider investment strategy setting. So happy to come back to the kind of wider council with further information on that. And as we've reflected in the report, it's not just the pension fund at the minute. We're increasingly taking into account climate change and responsible investment considerations when we're looking at wider resource allocation issues within the council. For example, at the last meeting of this committee, members agreed £9 million of increased capital investment, and that was heavily influenced by carbon reduction related proposals, particularly in relation to more environmentally friendly fleet, both council fleet and Swesstrans fleet, and also more energy efficient equipment and facilities in relation to our catering and cleaning services. So it's very much a high prominent issue within the pension fund, but also more and more within the council as well. But happy to come back to members with further information on that.
Okay, Ronnie.
Thanks very much for that. I'm picking something up here that you know, the Councillor Maitland was saying much more up front. Are we not up front just now? Is that information there already, or you know, is it just not in a form that people can access properly? Or?
Paul?
The pension fund's statement of investment principles, which runs through the kind of investment strategy, is publicly made available. But I do recognise that, you know, the pension fund has got a kind of separation from the council, and perhaps that information doesn't feed back into the kind of wider council reporting. So as I say, happy to you know, try and develop that going forward, and also work with the council's climate change officer in terms of improving information that's made available to members. But certainly everything we do in the pension fund, we try to ensure is publicly available at present.
Thank you. Stephen?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just on the same point, I think the council's, the pension committee did actually agree to become a signatory of the Climate Action Plus 100. I can't remember the name of the title, but if you were to search for that on the council website, you wouldn't find it. So it's something that we decided as a subcommittee, and obviously I think we should maybe celebrate that a bit more prominently. For example, clearly as well, there's questions to do with divesting of fossil fuel resources, for example. But I mean, we've already been issued with certain statements about that, and the council as such, or the pension fund, doesn't actually, we don't invest directly in stocks. We would do it through fund managers, each of which I think has to appear on there's a sort of UK register of kind of ESG approved investors, I think, which was updated last year, I think. So I think we have to quite rightly maybe articulate how we're doing what we're doing properly in line with our fifth priority. So I mean, I would suggest that that's something we could do, because being upfront about it might help us certainly put people's minds at ease whenever they come at us with questions about what we're doing to be investing responsibly. Thank you.
Okay, I've got no further members wishing to come in, so I'll move to the recommendations. I think it's fair to say we've reviewed the 6-month summary performance report. Item number 17 is the implementation of Financial Code 11. This report is brought forward to provide details of debt written off under delegated procedures over the 6-month period to the 30th of September 2021 for member scrutiny. Paul Garrett and Lindsay Wilson are here to assist if members have any questions. Is there any members who wish to come in? No. There does not appear to be. So I will move to the recommendations, and are we happy to, first of all, note the write-off and scrutinise? We've done so. Agenda item 18 is the Annan and District Day Centre Community Asset Transfer request. This report presents members with a proposed community asset transfer for the former library on Charles Street, Annan, to the Annan District Day Centre. This request has been considered by Andale and Eskdale Area Committee, who have recommended this transfer with conditions outlined in the report. Colin Freeman and Jamie Nicholson are here to assist if members have any questions, and I will open up to member debate. Dick?
Thanks, Chair. I would like to support this asset transfer. It's been a long time coming. The day centre has long ambitions to expand and make a better provision for older people in Annan. I think it does represent good value for the council. Previously, the intention was that the building was going to be demolished, and that would have been quite a considerable cost to the council. So I see this as a win-win for both the community and the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ian?
Thanks, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me a bit better. I was a bit quiet earlier, but no, absolutely in agreement with Councillor Brody there. The committee supported us fully. I've had an involvement, like I said earlier, through the declaration of interest for a number of years, but it really will make a difference. It's a big day. If we agree this today, a big day for Annan Day Centre. It gives them a chance to expand, provide better services for the adult care in particular. Yeah, so no, very much supportive of it. Option 2, I think, Area Committee, they're absolutely fine with that as well. So keen to see this move forward today, Chair, in the essence at the pace that you've been moving it up to now. So I would formally move option number 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ivor?
Thank you, Chair. It was just with regard to the condition for 24 months, just reassurance that if the funding wasn't in place within that 24 months, but would be within a couple of months after, they could come back to us and actually just ask for an extension if required.
Certainly, that's sort of what we've said in the past, but I'll just ask Jamie to confirm that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just to confirm that we would certainly bring that back to members to seek an extension for those.
Thank you. Stephen?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just in relation to it does in the report, and we have had this at Annandale and Estill Area Committee, of course, prior to this, but it does have in the report on page 244, it talks about the loss of the £7,000 income from rental per annum that would be lost. I know in previous reports we've been concerned that would be a revenue loss. Obviously, there's a value in still going through with the asset transfer as has been put forward by other members. But do we have a concern about this, or is that something we pick up through just management of revenue for that particular service? And also on the Market Hall complex, is there a common good aspect to that, and would that £7,000 affect the common good income, or would it be the council income?
Jamie?
Just to pick up on your point with regards to the common good, no, that wouldn't affect the common good income, and it would be Dumfries and Galloway Council revenue cost. With regards to the costs associated with the rental value, this would then open up the premises to allow more organisations or community groups to use those premises, so that we would be actively promoting the use of this premises within the town, and that would allow 4 days of access that previously wasn't there for the other members of the community to use. So hopefully that may recoup some of the revenue costs that would be lost from the rental income from the day centre.
Okay, thank you. Ronnie?
Yeah, I think it's a good project, and I think I agree with going along with Annandale and Estill Committee recommendation option 2. I think concerns in the past have been when we're looking at revenue that the council receives, there is no like for like. It's mostly in commercial aspects that we're losing. If we lose money on that basis to a commercial aspect, it causes me concern anyway, rather than the into the community and benefits to the community.
Thank you. Henry?
Yeah, Ronnie's pretty much went in there. I was going to second Councillor Crother's proposal, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I've got no other members who wish to come in, so I will move to the recommendations. I think it's fair to say that we have considered 1 and 2. Are we happy to note 3 and 4 in block? And point 5, are we happy to agree option 2 as detailed within the report? Okay, thank you very much. I can confirm that I have no other business deemed urgent, so thank you very much for your contribution and attendance today.